poem. Fat, fat. It's good for your heart and brain and cell membranes. I'm going off. Okay, back on track. The more you eat it, the healthier you become. Huh? 3, 2, 1, go! All right, I'm just gonna say it. I love fat. Oh my God, that feels so good. And it's not just because I ate 5 avocados yesterday. Like 5 whole avocados. I was counting at the end of the day. I was like, holy shit, I ate 5 avocados. Didn't even blink an eye. That being said, there are so many benefits to fat that have, until recently, really been overlooked in society. And it really falls back to the 1970s and 80s, where America was taking a hard stance on fighting heart disease, and a couple of science mishaps may have happened, and fat may have gotten pointed out as the culprit when it really wasn't the case. We're not here to point blame at any particular country or person in a study that might have changed the course of fat history. We're not here to do that. What we are here to talk about is why fat is essential for us living, existing. And I'll preface it with this. I am no fat specialist, scientist, lipidologist. I'm just a guy who eats 5 avocados in a freaking day. We all know one of the most common jobs of fat is to store energy. That's why we get a nice little layer on the outside of our skin that builds up the more we eat. Yeah, we know that. But what you may not know is fat is crucial for other things, such as insulating and protecting our organs, building a strong and healthy cell membrane, performing some signaling action, regulating the immune system, as well as energy balance as a whole. And that's just the tip of the fat iceberg. There's so much more, and it gets so complex that, so we're not gonna go there. We're not gonna go that deep. We're not gonna attempt to go that deep. I can't bring you that deep. You need some sort of expert who can explain it to normal people like us. But let's first take a trip down ancestry lane. Circa 300,000 years ago, your Homo sapien ancestors are gathering around that stone table, deciding where they want to go out to eat on this Sunday fun day, right? As usual, the kids are being difficult. We don't want berries again. And the parents go into a long monologue on how when they were growing up, berries were a delicacy and they should be grateful. The standard procedure, right? Okay, the facts of the matters are that probably was not the case 300,000 years ago. More likely, it was a scenario of feast and famine. You ate when you could acquire food, and for that rest of the time, for that famine, you lived off your fat. What we've come to know today, that carbohydrates or glucose is the energy of life. It is the main source of energy, the preferred energy source that we use and we burn. Being able to survive on it for anywhere between 36 to 60 hours, whether that be glucose remaining in the system from feast or stored as muscle and liver glycogen. But if we're not continuously replenishing our glucose, it will run out. If that was our only source of energy, we'd be history a long time ago. There had to be some other way. Good thing fat had our back. And when that time came where we needed that energy in those fat stores, there was no glucose around, our body would go through a process called lipolysis, which would break down those fatty acids from those fat stores, send it over to the liver where it'd get transferred into something called acetyl-CoA and made into energy that we can use. And that energy comes in the form of ketones that could then be burned in our cells' mitochondria for fuel. And here, my friends, are where the keto fanatics were born. So as much as we hate it in modern day Insta culture, like what I did there, trying to burn it, kill it, destroy it, make it cry, Fat really is an evolutionary advantage. And without it, there's no way we would have been here today. I mean, just think about it. 300,000 years ago, there weren't Whole Foods like right around the corner. I mean, there were Whole Foods, but not Whole Foods. You get what I'm saying, right? So coming back from that trip down evolutionary biology lane, we look at modern day Western culture, where food is more or less at an abundance and the quality of food is the major problem here. Being the real proving point that anything can be good or bad, and what really depends is the context. How that fat interacts with its environment before it goes into your body and after it goes into your body. So there are a lot of different factors that matter. There are even a number of essential fats that our bodies can't make on their own and we need to get from food sources. These fats are omega-3s and omega-6s. So like I said, it is complicated. What we do know is trans fats are bad. These are synthesized fats that do not come from any natural sources, that harden our cells and create weird shapes and are directly correlated with atherosclerosis or heart disease. Trans fats are bad. When we get to saturated fats, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats, I think the jury's still out there. There are some studies that correlate them with heart disease as well, mostly the saturated fats. But in a lot of those studies, you also see that the subjects or the animals were also on a high carbohydrate diet. And if you didn't know, we humans can and often do turn carbohydrates into fat through a process called de novo lipogenesis. The liver converts excess carbs into fatty acids that are then stored at adipocytes or fat. So for those who go on that low fat, high carb diet, if you're eating a lot of carbs that you're not burning, especially refined carbs, which are high sugar, low fiber foods, there's a very good chance that your liver is converting a lot of those carbs directly into fat. So your low fat, high carb diet isn't really doing much. So the question comes down, are fats safe? That's what we really want to know. From the scientific evidence that is out to date, getting a healthy serving of dietary fat, that is fats that you get through your diet from preferably real natural sources, are recommended for healthy living. So these are from sources such as avocados, nuts, plant oils, olives, real whole foods that pack a fat punch. What's also important is how you eat your fat and what you eat your fat with. There's some studies that show that it's better to eat your fat in the morning where your body is more primed for using and burning that energy for the day, as well as not mixing and matching your fats with carb-heavy foods. Now, what do I mean by this? Think about it this way. There are very, very few foods in nature that have a high both carbohydrate and fat composition. The only thing that really comes to mind are nuts. And when you think of nuts, nuts are enclosed with a heavy dose of fiber. So any carbohydrate or glucose release into the system is slowed down significantly by the fiber. All other foods are one or the other, either high in sugar or high in fat. You look at fruits. Fruits are almost exclusively high in sugar and have no fat, with the exception of avocados, which are high in fat but very low in sugar and also have a lot of fiber. When you look at carb-heavy foods such as rice, grains, quinoa, wheat, they are very carb-dense but have a very, very low fat ratio. So when you look at the foods we've evolved with over the thousands and thousands and thousands of years, there's a good chance that we haven't consumed foods that were both high in carbs and high in fat at the same time. And that's for a reason. Our bodies have two disparate pathways to burn that fuel. Now, the modern day food options, especially the ones in the middle aisles of the grocery stores, often pack a punch of both fat and sugar in one serving that our body is just not naturally fit to break down and burn at the same time. So what happens? We burn the carbs and the sugar first. The fats go to some cells to aid function, but get pushed to storage. And often we have too many carbs, regardless of the fat. So some of those excess carbs end up being turned into fat. And doing this repetitively to the body really wears down the liver, which lead to things such as diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and the formation of a lot of different things that could go wrong biologically in our body. So that's a little Fat 101 talk I wanted to have with you guys. I'm a big fan of fat. I like fat. I've experimented with keto. I might be doing that on and off. I probably get around 50% of my calories daily from fat, but I do make sure that I break it up and never have a meal that is both high in fat, high in carbs, and always stay clear of those processed foods that are high in refined carbs that will shock the system and the liver quickly. Like we went over, there are a lot of benefits to fat. I think it's mostly agreed on that fat has a place in a healthy diet. It's just the type of fat and the way you consume it that really matters. So I hope you got some value out of this video. I'm definitely planning on digging into fat a little bit more. There's so much more to cover. There's so much more to learn. It's gonna be awesome. Also, one of the reasons I probably like eating so much fat is because I like to burn it. So you can check out my free weekly circuit workouts that are anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes and always deliver that endorphin boost. So that's what I got. Don't be scared of fat. Fat is good. Maybe not 5 avocados a day good, but possibly close. Just do your best to understand it and understand how the body processes it. I hope this helped in that manner. Speaking of avocados, I have a long train ride home and I kind of ate all the avocados I saved for today yesterday. So I'm gonna go to the hotel front desk and ask for avocado recommendations. It's always fun when they hear a new one. Until next time. I'm gonna show you what the behind the scenes filming this looked like. Got that light set up, moved the table, chairs somewhere, complete hotel debacle. I got like 5 minutes to clean this shit up to catch a train. Gotta go.